Hello everyone, I was working on my game engine and just fixed a bug and I wanted to share what I did. What I was trying to do was add Bebop from the Ninja Turtles into my engine as a different character with unique behaviors, and what I found was when I added him, all I added for assets was just a left and a right walk, and I thought I did everything I needed to do to make it so that he never draws any of the other sprites because they don't exist, and sure enough I find that he's drawing a white rectangle when he goes through a certain state change. So before I go further and start debugging it, let me just give some background on my engine. Not much. So every character inherits from the base unit object, and the base unit object has an enumerator type, the unit state, which is a named variable called curse state in every single inherited character, with values right, left, idle, attack, two player, etc., etc., etc. And these are leveraged to keep track of game logic based off character behavior. Now, let's look at that character behavior. It's not that complicated. It's managed by a state machine, and that state transition is managed by a random number generator. You can certainly build upon this with a much more sophisticated scheme, scripting character changes based off of external stimuli or predetermined path of states, but here I'll just stick to the random number generator for simplicity's sake. And you see it goes through, defines the state, and then using that new state reconfigures the character's actions, and in this case it's just the sprite that's being drawn and how it moves around. Its velocity components, both in the X and the Y direction. I removed projectile logic because one step at a time I want to implement the character into the game. So let's go ahead and do a little debugging, shall we? I'm going to add a statement to help me identify what's going on. I'm just going to add this to every single state. Now let's build it. Okay, so right away he goes into that state, and it looked like it was a 2. Let's keep an eye for it. If we really quick, because it only lasts for like a second, it looks like, and yep, it indeed is a 2. So let's see what's wrong with using 2. Now, if we remember looking at that base unit, 2 is idle. It goes right, left to idle, or is it left, right to idle? So here we have curse state being defined as idle when the random number generator returns a 2, a 3, or any number outside of 1 through 7. So we go down to the actual transition and redefinition of the character's traits, and we go to idle, and we look at where the unit sprite is redefined, and the unit sprite is redefined at 2. But there is nothing texture-wise from 2, because base 0 and base 1 are the only sprites that exist. That is to say that the only sprites that exist for Bebop is him facing left and right, which means there is no idle sprite to right. One thing I also noticed was that unit sprite isn't defined by curse state across the board. It's actually defined by the value, the explicit enum value, not the variable that holds the enumerated value. So let's go ahead and start making that migration. So if I was to type idle, I'd still get that behavior. But I want to get rid of the bug, not just further explicate the bug. So I'll write left. So now the white square will be replaced by him facing left. I'll migrate these two as well, but I just want to make sure I solve the problem. Let's build Bebop. And sure enough, with 2 there, he looks to the left. Look for one more instance of that indication. There he is. He's looking left. Now with the problem solved, let's take that newfound knowledge on how I originally wrote this and propagate some of that knowledge we learned. We don't want to use cur state when we're using explicit enumerative values. So let's go ahead and replace cur state across the board in this code logic. And let's go ahead and remove these. Even after all my time using them, I still sometimes get a little slow navigating it. And now the debug comments are gone. The change has been propagated throughout the remainder of the state machine, and now we just have to worry about modifying, or rather enriching, Bebop's behavior, adding some more art and some attack behavior that would require adding projectiles. But that goes beyond this discussion. Just wanted to share what I've encountered, the steps I took to solve that problem that I encountered, and to show people what it's like when working on this in a routine basis. I hope you enjoyed it, and I hope you learned something new.